go for the 6th pick. Yeah, okay,
It's
gotcha,
Brian Murphy.
And
It's
that's
the
how,
third
Oh
Brian
my God.
Murphy.
and that's how we got canceled.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Beard Zone Sports Talk. My name is David. I got Carlos and Scooter with me tonight, and we are back for the next season. We are going to be doing a redraft of last year's draft class. We're going to go through the entire first round here. This is going to be volume 1 of 2 volumes, so we're going to be doing the top 16 picks of the 2024 draft. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that like button so that way you can go ahead and stay with us as we go through this off season. Gentlemen, you know, hindsight's always 2020, right? I mean, it's hard when you have a draft and you're picking, you know, and you have, especially if you're number 1, number 2, even the top, 5 picks. Sometimes it can be hard. You know, you see a guy, he looks good, he looked good in college. That doesn't necessarily always translate to the NFL. So this is what we're going to do tonight. We're going to go back through, we're going to put on our GM caps, and we're going to go through last year's draft class, starting with the first overall pick with the Chicago Bears. Scooter, you know what? Let's have you kick this one off because I know that this was your favorite pick of last year.
Only because he paints his nails. Now, if I were to redo the draft, what I got 30 seconds on the clock? I would have to say that the Chicago Bears select Jaden Daniels. That's what I would have to say because he absolutely outplayed good old Caleb Williams and his painted nails. Sweet Jesus.
Oh my God! No, but the painted nails make the ball more aerodynamic. I don't know if you knew that, Scooter. So
I mean, it's more like
and he's in the Windy Cindy, so he has to make sure that the ball travels well. So
that's because he blows. But okay.
My gosh, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Way to tee it up for him.
I knew you weren't going to disappoint, Scooter. I definitely appreciate that. You know what, man? I'm right there with you, though, Scooter. I think Jaden Daniels, in hindsight, obviously is the pick here at number 1. Chicago Bears were looking for their franchise guy. Jaden Daniels definitely is. So I have Jaden Daniels going number 1, too.
Yeah, I got him same way. I mean, I would think with them having 2 of the top 10 picks, this was a really good quarterback class, but they had so many needs, but you got to get that QB1. So Daniels was mine too.
Yeah. And it's such a Bears thing to do. Are the Browns or are the Bears becoming the new Browns where they just can't seem to hit on a quarterback?
Don't do that to the Bears fans.
They're not that bad, okay?
Well, not yet, but the Browns had to start somewhere too, and I mean, I don't know.
I mean, if you go back in history, they got Mitch Trubisky. There's been some, they've been some. Might want to fire the scout team.
Maybe, yeah.
When your best quarterback over the last 20 years is named Jay Cutler.
Oh. Dude, Jay Cutler, though, man, was an absolute animal. He didn't care about anything. He would put his head down. I want to know how many concussions that man has.
He didn't care. He just played.
He did not.
He was like the modern Brett Favre. He's like, I'll take a concussion and still throw for 400 yards. Like,
let me email this pick real quick. He's going deep.
That's awesome.
And the fire continues.
Speaking of fires, let's go ahead and actually, no, the Commanders aren't a dumpster fire anymore. They made it all the way to the NFC Championship because of the guy who we took number 1 for the Bears. You're welcome, Chicago. But now the Commanders are on the board. For me, I got them taking Caleb Williams. I know that Caleb didn't necessarily turn into the guy, but I still think he showed flashes of franchise quarterback with the Chicago Bears. And at the end of the day, Commanders are still in need of a quarterback. So I had them taking Caleb Williams here.
Yeah, I went QB, but I didn't go Caleb here. I actually went Drake May. I think when May was in at the end of the season, he actually put up good stats. I mean, he's not on I think Caleb benefited from being on Washington's team a little bit, is a little bit more well-rounded roster. But I think Drake fits in that. They go back to back, well, not back to back with North Carolina quarterbacks from Sam Howell, Drake. Man, I like what Drake did at the end of the year with New England.
Fair enough.
I will have to go a completely third direction because I think Dan Quinn prefers to have a mature guy behind a center. That's why they chose Jaden Daniels in reality. If I could go back and pick another quarterback that wasn't Jaden Daniels, it absolutely would not be Caleb Williams because he has no maturity at all. It would have to probably be Michael Penix. They're very similar in style. Good arm. He's actually quite mobile if you let him go. But he fits that system, and I think Dan Quinn can help kind of mold part of his delivery a little bit better. Penix.
Michael Penix going number 8 to the Falcons last year. I think we all remember the reaction that we had live when we did our not our Super Bowl, but when we did our draft episode. That pick, man, I will never forget that. So Michael Penix to number 2 with the Commanders. Man, that would have been interesting. I like the thought process though. Similar play. They can definitely extend the play with their legs. Very accurate quarterback with Michael Penix. I like it. And he doesn't go to the Atlanta Falcons, so I don't have to see him in the NFC South. So I am totally okay with that. Well, let's go ahead and let's move on to the third pick with the New England Patriots. Carlos, you said that you're not taking, or you took Drake May number 2, so he's off the board. He went to New England last year. He definitely had success there. But who do you have now with the Patriots as their GM with this pick, and Drake May isn't there?
Yeah, I'm staying with quarterback, and I think this is where Caleb would fall. They can't pass. I don't think you can pass up on him. I don't think we've seen the best Caleb Williams yet, but I think New England needs that quarterback. And when you look at his athleticism, he's an athletic guy. Like he's got some stuff to work on, but I think New England goes with Caleb on this one.
Yeah, I have to agree with Carlos, only because Caleb Williams is really used to running away from defenders. And New England has absolutely zero O-line, so why invest in anything other than a quarterback? And you're the bums of the NFC or AFC East, sorry. So, yeah, I would have to agree with Carlos that the New England Patriots end up taking Caleb Williams in the third pick.
Well, Caleb Williams was off my board at this pick because I had him going with the Commanders. So I had the Patriots sticking with Drake May. I think that he's a good fit there. I think that he played well into the system. I think he's going to continue to find success. They have just got to get weapons around this guy. They have got to get some sort of offense. And, not to jump ahead, but like T. Higgins, he's already gotten franchise tag. There's a couple of wide receivers that might be, on the move. We know that Devontae Adams just got released by the Jets earlier today. I don't know if that's someone that they would target, but they have got to get someone around. So in this draft class coming up for the 2025, I know Patriots need to be getting some weapons around Drake May. Man, Caleb Williams and a New England Patriots. Could you imagine going from Tom Brady to Mac Jones to paint and nails Caleb Williams? Like the dynamic shift.
I don't know.
It's just a downgrade of what a man is. But yeah, next pick.
I don't know. But they did have Pretty Boy Brady, so
Okay, well, but
there's
Pretty Boy Brady got them 6 Super Bowls. So
yeah. There's a difference between GQ, like magazine cover quarterback, Hall of Famer, to like borderline tranny. Like, keep going.
My gosh, dude.
Dude, just
keep
going.
That's the new GQ. That's what they do now.
He wore a skirt for a photo shoot.
Unfortunately, that's the way it is.
Drag queen quarterback. And we move on.
Carlos Scooter is stuck in the 90s. We just can't get, away from it. So he still watches Home Improvement with his kids.
Hey, whoa.
So, hey, I like Home Improvement too. So, it's a classic sitcom there. All right. So we have number 4 with the Arizona Cardinals. we've gone quarterback this entire draft so far. I mean, same thing that happened with the actual draft last year. But this is where we saw Marvin Harrison Jr. go to the Arizona Cardinals. And I actually have the Cardinals going a different direction. Not that I don't think but Marvin Harrison had a bad year, but Malik Neighbors definitely was, I feel like, the better wide receiver of the two. So I have Malik Neighbors going to Arizona with this pick.
I got the same thing. He's a better playmaker. You can just see the skills are better overall. The guy, route runner, playmaker, just he's dynamic. And Marvin Harrison didn't show that. He's still a good receiver, but man, Neighbors is lightning in a bottle.
Absolutely.
Well, you have to stick with the fact that the Arizona Cardinals have continually made a bad decision to re-sign the midget of the NFL, Kyler Murray, and he can't get past the Call of Duty update. Like, come on.
That is very true. The Call of Duty update still stands strong after this year. It still stands strong. The Call of Duty update came, and the Arizona Cardinals were having a decent year, and then it was all downhill from there for them and Kyle Murray's.
Yeah, Malik Neighbors did outperform Marvin Harrison Jr., even with Danny, whatever dumpster fire he was, playing for the Giants. I still think Arizona sticks with Marvin Harrison Jr., just because, like, he's the top prospect guy.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, again, hindsight is always 20/20, but that's why we're doing this redraft because, hey, we got to try and make the right picks for these franchise organizations here. So, but, Cardinals, they definitely need a weapon. So Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., I don't think you're going to go necessarily wrong, but I like Neighbors a lot better. Especially, dude, when I drafted him for my fantasy. Wait, did I have him or was I just trying to trade for him? I don't know. I can't remember now. But anyway, definitely, yeah, I did have Malik Neighbors, and he was awesome. Gave me a ton of points. So, but number 5, the Chargers, they went with Joe Alt last year. So they went true. They stayed true to Harbaugh's, tough nose, old school, ground and pound kind of physicality. He went in there. He made his identity known. They went with Joe Alt. It was a big success for them as they saw a lot of success on the ground, kind of revitalizing J.K. Dobbins' career, which was awesome to see. So, but who do you have as the new GM of the Chargers at number 5 last year? Do you still stick with Joe Alt or do you go a different direction?
No, I think it's the right pick. This is one that I'm going to stay with. Alt's a beast. He's going to be a guy that we talk about years from now at a left tackle position. Is just the guy's a beast.
Yeah, I can't disagree with Carlos. This thing was spectacular. Like, Joe Alt was a spectacular one for the Chargers. The only way they could have done any better was trade up for an actual wide receiver besides Quentin Brick Hands Johnson. So
Scooter is on a roll.
Drops.
Scooter had 2 weeks to go. You know what? I'm coming out swinging this season, and I love it. Absolutely love it. Welcome to the Beard Zone. Hey, if you're new, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate that. So I like Joe Alt here. I think it's the identity of the Chargers, right? Jim Harbaugh came in to Los Angeles, made his identity known, and I think it is the right pick. I mean, you can't go wrong with this pick, so I have Joe Alt going here. Now, this is where, in my draft board, it gets a little bit interesting, because now we are putting on the fact that this guy still has a job. Let's just talk about this really quick, guys. The New York Giants GM still has a job. After being nationally broadcast to all NFL fans and beyond, that if Saquon's not worth it. No, Saquon. And then he goes to the Eagles. He wins the Super Bowl. He could have easily gotten the record, right? But he rested. Has a Super Bowl. Now you're the Giants. What do? You have Danny Dimes. You went all in on Danny Dimes. And you said, see you next Sunday. Saquon. But now what do you do? What do you do with this pick?
You bury your GM under the field like they did with Hoffa and move on. That's exactly what you do. You do not take Malik Neighbors because you don't really have anyone to throw to him, even though he had a spectacular season. Then you man up and get Bo Nix or JJ McCarthy. I think based on what we saw, right, because injury with JJ McCarthy didn't help, but I think Bo Nix definitely proved that he was a top 10 prospect at least, and you need someone to throw the ball except for a giraffe neck 22-mile-per-hour running joke of a quarterback and Danny Dimes. So I take Bo Nix for the Giants.
Yeah, that's what I had too. I think he would have fit in perfect with just that New York toughness because he's a tough dude, man. He proved a lot of people wrong. Actually, putting up very similar stats with Jaden Daniels. I mean, if you go stat for stat there, and you don't put a picture of the two athletes, you're leaning a little bit towards Bo Nix that he's a better quarterback on paper. So I went with Bo Nix here as well.
Yeah, we're all on the same page here. Bo Nix is the guy. Now, granted, we always talk about the marriage between quarterback and head coach, right? I feel like Bo Nix is the perfect fit for a Sean Payton system. You know, he's fiery. You know, we saw him and Sean Payton go at it a couple of times this season, but that's what Sean Payton needs. He needs someone to kind of go back and forth with him. That's why Russell didn't really work, you know, because Russell isn't that fiery kind of guy. He's more of a guy who just runs through the entire offense, you know, during warmups, and that's just not who Sean Payton is. And so to have Bo Nix go to the Giants, does he have the same success?
I mean, other than the defense of the Broncos on offense, it's the same team. It's not much different. The running back situation in Denver's not good. O-line's it's okay. So but that defense put him in some nice situations.
Defense for the Broncos was definitely great. Yeah. That secondary for the Broncos was insane. That secondary was awesome. So let's move on. We got the Tennessee Titans picking number 7. Last year they went with their offensive line, J.C. Latham, and I mean, it's an all right pick. I'm not mad at that pick. But do you guys have them going a different route, or do you have them sticking with that pick?
Yeah, this is the one I stuck with it. I don't think Latham is on Alt's level, but this guy, his intangibles are. If you look at him in Alt, like when you're talking wingspan and all that, it's better than Alt's. So I had him sticking. Anytime you can get a book in that can be there for 10 plus years and become a Pro Bowler, you gotta stick with it.
I'm kind of with Carlos because the offensive line, you guys, and I think you mentioned, Carlos, that there was a pretty decent quarterback class. I would argue that there was a very good offensive line class this year, and you could have picked a slew of dudes. I think Tennessee going with Latham is good. I think they probably should have traded up to get another O-line because no matter who they had back there for quarterback, they were just getting destroyed. It's like watching a worse offense than Russian military. J.C. Latham is...
dude.
Yeah, I'm sticking with J.C. Latham for Tennessee.
You know, I like J.C. Latham. I love the pick here, but I did go a different direction. And it was just simply because Tennessee's defense actually wasn't that bad last year, right? But we had a really good defensive showing by none other than defensive rookie himself, Jared Verse. And so I think having that additional pass rush there on that defensive line of the Tennessee Titans just to kind of bolster it up. You know, as good as their defense was, they could have needed a little bit of help in the pass rush, and I think Jared Verse could have brought that to them. And I love it. So I had Jared Verse going to the Tennessee Titans here at number 7. But now we have the Atlanta Falcons. This was the surprise pick last year, guys. Michael Penix, number 8 to Atlanta Falcons. I'm pretty sure a lot of us had Dallas Turner going here because they obviously, they were in need of some, pass rush. They just signed Kirk Cousins for $140 million a year. Or no, actually, I think it was $180 million a year for 4 years. Obviously, it didn't work out. Kirk Cousins is now seemingly on the way out. Again, hindsight is always 20/20. But with the Atlanta Falcons, do you stick with Michael Penix here, or do you go a different route?
You take Dallas Turner. If we could rewind the clock, you take Dallas Turner as the Atlanta Falcons, and here's why. You just pay Kirk Cousins like $140 million guaranteed, and you can pick up a quarterback in the second round and play with that. Or you can trade the next year. Their defense was abysmal. Like, it was not up to snuff. They couldn't keep up with other teams. Yeah, you scored 40 points, but you only did that for like 3 games. So, and then the second half of the season, they basically just fell off the map. If Kirk Cousins stayed healthy and didn't turn the ball over like 80 times in 3 games, maybe they might have had a shot at the playoffs against the Bucs. But how we were playing in the second half of the season, I don't think so. But I think they redo their fate, more or less, and they don't pick Michael Penix. They pick Dallas Turner. Like, the entire world wanted them to.
I went defense because they did lack on pass rushing. You know what we know now? I did go with Jared Verse here. Best defensive end rookie. He's a plug and play on the other side of Matthew Judon. I think they missed the boat. I actually think drafting Penix put too much pressure on Cousins, and I think that's why we've never seen Cousins falter anywhere. And I think that pick Penix backfire. But when hindsight, like I say, we know what happens, but I would have went Jared Verse here.
So this is where I went a little bit off kilter. Not necessarily, but I had a little bit of fun with this pick. And it was just simply because you're looking at the Atlanta Falcons, and this offense, they have Kirk Cousins, they have Bijan Robinson, they have Drake London. They got a lot of good weapons, but there's one guy in one position that continues to let us down. And every year, one man in fantasy football has their hopes that this guy is going to have his breakout year. And every year, Kyle Pitts lets us down time and time again. And after this year's class and after this year's rookie class and what we saw from some of the offensive weapons that went in the first round, I'm going to have them redo that tight end position. And I have the Atlanta Falcons taking Brock Bowers here. Brock Bowers to the Atlanta Falcons. They can get whatever value they can for Kyle Pitts, and they can add to this offense that has a lot of weapons on it. Drake London and Brock Bowers would definitely be no fun to play with. And Brock Bowers' addition in the run blocking scheme to aid to the Bijan Robinson running attack. I would hate it as a Bucs fan, but I think that this would be a fun pick to have for the Atlanta Falcons. So I have Brock Bowers going here at number 8 to the Atlanta Falcons. Kyle Pitts out of Atlanta, Brock Bowers in, and they continue to move forward with him. So, all right, Bears are back on the clock. We all had them taking Jaden Daniels. They got their quarterback of the future. Last year, they got Rome Odunze, which everyone thought, this guy, okay. Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, these two guys were going to be coming into the league together. They were going to revitalize this Bears offense. And although they did show some flashes, I will give them that. It didn't necessarily pan out to the liking of the Bears or their fans. So now that we have a redo here, who are we taking with this number 9 pick?
Well, I went to the defensive side of the ball, which they probably should have done because they didn't need a wide receiver. And if they drafted this guy, I believe they had one more game of a win against the Washington Commanders. I went with Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo at corner, and he would have never gave up that long bomb like Tyreek Stevenson did. So I went with corner. It was a big need for them. They were near the bottom of the league in pass defense, and Quinyon Mitchell quietly, Cooper DeJean got most of the press, has had a really good year as corner for the Philadelphia Eagles. When you don't hear their name, they're doing good.
That's the truth.
I would argue that they needed more O-line because of how trash it was the entire season. I would pick Fashanu from Penn State. I think the guy had really good hands and could flex out to the outside for tackle. Fashanu, I think, was a better pick for O-line. They could have just stolen him. He was already available. Your quarterback needs protection, clearly.
Yeah. I went with O-line as well, but I went with J.C. Latham. I had him still on my board, and I think that would be definitely something that Chicago Bears could benefit from with that O-line. That Caleb Williams was. I don't know how well their Christmas presents were, but I don't think it was anything too special. So because that guy was continually to run, but maybe he's used to it because of the O-line that he came from. USC. So who knows? Maybe Caleb Williams likes it. Maybe Caleb Williams likes to be chased by men. Maybe that's just his thing. We don't know. So, but I have J.C. Latham going with the Bears here to go ahead and keep their new franchise quarterback, Jaden Daniels, upright. Next pick, New York Jets. Fellas, if I could have hindsight for myself with the New York Jets, because I had the biggest hype behind this team going into last season. I think I had them only losing like 2 or 3 games, and they were going to make it all the way to the Super Bowl. That was my pick. It was Aaron Rodgers coming back from the injury. We had the rumors of possibly Devontae Adams coming, this offseason. Happened a little bit later in the season. But this team did nothing but disappoint. For the past 2 years, they've completely dropped the ball. Don't necessarily know what's going on. The front office is an absolute dumpster fire. Aaron Rodgers, the project with Aaron Rodgers is now a forgotten dream. And they're moving forward. But if we could try and make it right this year, who would you pick for the New York Jets?
Oh man, if this would have been their scenario, I went Brock Bowers here. You put Bowers with Garrett Wilson, I think it's a totally different team. But I went with Bowers. He gives them that Travis Kelce like catching. He blocks well. It would have been a great pick for them.
There's not enough draft picks in this draft class to take up for the ego of Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets dumpster fire. I just wanted to make that disclaimer. Brock Bowers. Their offensive line actually wasn't terrible, even with the addition of Fashanu. So I think an extra little passing game threat like Brock Bowers would have helped. It's really hard for me to justify what to pick to give the Jets because they were just a raging dumpster fire. Yeah, Brock Bowers.
I almost had Bowers going to the Jets because I like that. I like the idea of Brock Bowers and Aaron Rodgers and what he could do for that offense. But because I like the idea of Brock Bowers kind of taking the replacement for Kyle Pitts, obviously he is now off my board. So I just went with the same pick. Olu Fashanu, offensive line. Hey, they needed it. They need offensive line help. So I just went with that. Their defense wasn't horrible. Offense, Garrett Wilson had 1,000 yards. Breece Hall had a decent year, almost averaged, I think, like 4 yards a carry, if I'm not mistaken. Just shy of, 900 yards for the year. Aaron Rodgers, definitely disappointment. I think he had like 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 3,800 yards, something like that. So not necessarily the Aaron Rodgers season that we are used to. So I just went with the old. I just kept it the same because I honestly have no idea what the Jets need. They need a whole lot of help. That is for sure. So sorry, Jets fans, but they need a lot more than Jesus. I think they just, I really don't know, man. They need a lot of help. So T's and P's go out to all the Jets fans. Hey, look, I was a believer too. I was an Aaron Rodgers believer too. Go back and watch our way too early predictions and watch how much of a fool I've made of myself. So we were all tricked by the New York Jets. The Minnesota Vikings are now on the clock. Last year pick, they took J.J. McCarthy. Obviously, they didn't know what was going on because they had Sam Sam Darnold, no one saw what Sam Darnold was going to do now. J.J. McCarthy obviously got hurt. If he stayed healthy, what would that have done to Sam Darnold? We don't necessarily know, and I don't think the Vikings are going to complain about that because Sam Darnold definitely got revitalized. This defense, one of the best defenses last year, so I actually had them taking Marvin Harrison Jr. here. I think having Marvin Harrison Jr. and Justin Jefferson as your weapons for Sam Darnold and Aaron Jones, he had a great year, over 1,000 yards this year. So like I said, defense was good. Add another weapon to this offense, and who knows what could have happened. I mean, the fact that the Minnesota Vikings went, what was it, 15-2 or 14-3, and they didn't win their division was absolutely bonkers to me. But adding Marvin Harrison Jr. out there, Jordan Addison is a great weapon, but I like Marvin Harrison at the number 2 with Justin Jefferson.
I think you stick with LSU and you go with Malik Neighbors. He has better size, better vertical, better top end, better hands. I think since I didn't pick him earlier, I'm going to take Malik Neighbors. I like the wide receiver call there. I think you can help mentor Darnold into what he needs to be, and then you can probably draft later for a quarterback or trade in the free agency.
Yeah, I went with receiver, but oddly, Marvin Harrison Jr. has fallen in my draft. I actually went with Ladd McConkey. You got Jefferson goes over the top, McConkey's underneath. Guy puts up over 1,100 yards now. We see him play. I think it'd been a great fit. Him, T.J. Hawkins, and Aaron Jones. I think Kevin O'Donnell is super happy with that offense looks like.
White wide receiver in Minnesota. No one saw that coming, right? Surprise! I actually like Ladd McConkey. You know, there was a lot of wide receivers that actually really impressed this year. I mean, you had Brian Tomlinson, you had Ladd McConkey, obviously Malik Neighbors. So I'm excited to see what these weapons continue to do for their offense and their team. So, but now we are on to the Broncos. Broncos, obviously, so what we did is we just kept the original picks. We didn't add in the trades. We didn't do any of that, fancy hoopla or whatever you do. None of the witchcraft, Taylor Swift didn't get a hold of us. So we just stayed with the true picks here. So with the Raiders picking at their 12th spot, who do they got? Obviously, they were still in need of a quarterback. Okay, here's a trivia question. And it shouldn't be a trivia question because, we do a sports podcast, so we should know this stuff. But who was the quarterback for Broncos to back up to Bo Nix?
It was Zach Wilson.
Oh, my God, that's right. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
He had to go for the Mountain Lions or the Cougars again, so he had to do that.
Damn it. Yeah, wasn't that a really interesting quarterback room? It was Bo Nix, Zach Wilson, and then who else? There was someone else there.
Where your veterans are younger than the guy drafted as a rookie, yeah.
I forgot about that too.
I can't remember the other guy.
I forgot about that too. Well, while I'm looking that up,
it was Stidham.
Stidham, yeah.
Oh, Stidham. That's who it was. Good pull, Scooter. Way to be a football.
I only remember because of the arrogance he had during his first interview. He's like, "I'm going to be the starter. Don't worry about it." And it was like, meh, Bo Nix.
Yeah, that didn't last too long. But all right, so Broncos with the 12th pick. Who do you got? I actually had them taking J.J. McCarthy here. J.J. is still on my board. They need a quarterback, so I just went with the next guy up.
I think Drake May's draft stock after last year, if I could redo this, is definitely not even in the top, I would say 10 at all. I like J.J. McCarthy to Denver as well, only because of the IMG Academy and, coachability from the hardball Michigan feel. I think there's a lot that Sean Payton can kind of bleed on to him as a, youthful quarterback with a lot of potential, as we saw in the preseason. It sucks that he was injured. We couldn't see anything else. It'd be very interesting to see how Minnesota would have played out with McCarthy versus Darnold. But yeah, Denver, if they couldn't take Bo Nix and he was already taken, like I had in my scenario, I think J.J. McCarthy falls to them.
I actually, for the Broncos, I actually went Michael Penix. He's still on my board, so he ends up up there with in Denver, and I think they get their quarterback.
I think a lot of people had Michael Penix to Broncos last year, if I'm not mistaken. But that moves us on to the Las Vegas Raiders, now officially owned. Well, I mean, let's just be real. Tom Brady's running the show there. So, but Tom Brady wasn't running it last year, and last year they had
to run it like his crypto company.
Well, let's hope not, because that was not a good outcome at all. But last year he wasn't running it. But they went. I mean, they had a home run pick. They had Brock Bowers. I mean, what more can you ask for the guy? The guy absolutely killed it last year. This one was a hard one for me though, because I almost wanted to purposely leave a quarterback on the board, so then that way they could go quarterback because they had Gardner Minshew. But I just couldn't make it make sense in any of my boards. So I had who I feel like was probably one of the best wide receivers, and that's Brian Thomas Jr. And that was, so I have him going to the Raiders. They definitely need help out there. I think that he would be a great wide receiver for them. Definitely was an added value to the Jacksonville Jaguars this past season. I think he can do the same there in Raiders. So I have them taking Brian Thomas Jr. Who do you guys have?
So funny that we would make the same pick here. I would have not thought you meant. I did Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, almost 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns. He's not throwing to a crazy much better quarterback than Minshew. So, yeah, the Raiders could, but they made a great pick this year. So,
yeah,
they need a wide receiver, and Thomas is he's a wide receiver one, man. Guy's got what a great receiving class in last year.
It really was. And just to be clear, the only reason why we are not taking Brock Bowers here is because in this redraft, he is already off, I believe, all of our boards. So
yes,
that is why we are bright. The fact that he fell to the Raiders is incredible now in hindsight 20. But because he's off our board, that's why I took and Carlos took Brian Thomas Jr. Scooter, are you going to make it a hat trick? Are we going to go 3 for 3 with this pick?
No.
Oh.
Only because Drake May gets picked here. And it's only because the Las Vegas Raiders don't know any better. They're like the Western Cleveland Browns. They just can't seem to stop drafting dudes who don't matter anymore. But there's Drake May has a strong arm that sticks to the stereotypical Rich Gannon model. Chuck it down the field, hope for the best. They have a spectacular defense, so why not take a risk? Drake May was very mobile in the backfield, and I think that kind of goes to how they wanted to make their offense with Gardner as a shiftier guy. They had Desmond Ridder. They had Aiden O'Connell. O'Connell's a pocket guy. Ritter's kind of a hopefully don't throw an interception guy. There was such a mediocre quarterback room. I think Drake May would have at least made some form of an impact if they didn't take Minshew and they didn't have O'Connell. O'Connell's still on a rookie contract, but the dude hasn't produced. He choked with the fumble snap against the Chiefs, and he throws like 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in the same game. He's a white Jameis.
Wait. Carlos. Did you just pick that up? Did he just admit that the refs made the right call with the Chiefs against
game?
the Raiders? That's what I heard. He
fumbled the snap.
That's what I heard. Is that so?
It's because what was called.
We can go back. We can go back. I'm almost positive that. Don't make me pull out the text.
I'm not saying they got the call right. I'm just saying he fumbled the snap.
Call. Yeah,
that was the call.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm just making sure that you're staying true to who you are, Scooter.
I am.
I can tell you now, the Raiders would have loved it. Drake May fell to them that far. That would have been a wet dream scenario for them.
He somehow got into a Pro Bowl with the most mediocre stats possible. It was like watching Mac Jones make a Pro Bowl. It was like, what the hell
and
just happened?
Honestly, if you look at the rosters, if you compare the rosters, Patriots to the Raiders offensively, about the same, right? I mean, no big weapons. They lost Josh Jacobs, so
basically as unimpressive as North Korea. Moving on.
Jeez. Scooter, you know what, man? I've missed you the past couple of weeks. I really have. So, number 14, we have the Saints. The Saints went with offensive tackle. Gosh dang, man. Talisi Fuega? Is that how you pronounce his name?
It's better than Puka Nuka.
Yeah.
Oh
Puka
my gosh!
Nuka.
Can we get a rewind for that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Maybe.
I think that was a good. Actually, that wasn't bad on the names thing. There, you're pretty close.
It was about the effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. A for effort.
That's what she said.
You get an E for effort. For you, that's higher than an F, so it's good.
Hey. I'm pretty sure my high school just handed me my diploma so that way I could get the hell out of there. I'm almost positive. I still don't know how I graduated. So, but who do we have the Saints taking?
I actually finally Marvin Harrison comes off my board at 14. Gives Derek Carr with Olave gets somebody on the other side. Gets a little bit of help there on that offense that they desperately could have used if they could find a quarterback other than Derek Carr. So, but yeah, I finally got Marvin Harrison off the board. I don't think he had a bad year. It's just, man, some of these other receivers were dynamite last year, but he finds a home in New Orleans.
I really like the offensive line pick for them. But part of me is saying they should have went with Troy Fautanu, because the Oregon State and that passing scheme is similar to how Derek Carr likes to do it from a spread offense. And I think it would have been a little bit better from the tackle position. Yeah, Troy Fautanu for New Orleans. I like the offensive line pick, but just a different guy.
Makes sense. So this is where I went defensive side of the ball. And, we had a little bit of a vision of this man in New Orleans, and he actually scored his first touchdown in that stadium. Let's just go back just a couple weeks. The electric white. I have Cooper DeJean going to the Saints at number 14. I think that they needed big-time help in the secondary, and I think that this would be the guy to bring that to New Orleans. So I think Cooper DeJean would be the pick here to help with that defense. They definitely need it. I believe, let me fact check myself, but they were ranked 30th in the league on defense, and I think Cooper DeJean would be the guy to help with that secondary who desperately needed help, especially there towards the back half of the season. Because let's not forget, the Saints were Derek Carr and the Saints were the team to beat week 2. They scored over 40 points. They shut out the other teams that they played. They went into Jerry World on week 2, and they just completely dismantled the Cowboys after the Cowboys dismantled the Browns in week 1. So, it was a wild, wild time in the very beginning of the year for the New Orleans Saints, but it quickly came to reality for them. And I think that the biggest need right now for that team is defensive secondary. And Cooper DeJean, I believe, would be the guy to fill in that role perfectly. And if you think about it, what division are they in? Yes, it's the NFC South. Does the NFC South get a lot of love? No, absolutely not. Understandable. Not necessarily, the high power heavyweight division. But if you look at the weapons of the other teams that they have to go against, they're pretty strong. So Why not have some secondary help to cover the weapons of your opposing teams in your division to try and, take the title away from the 4-time reigning NFC South champions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll just keep that there. So let's move on before Carlos says something smart. And
it's on the same equivalence of being the tallest midget.
Hey, you know what? But there's still someone out there that has to have that title, and I'm proud it's us, okay, Carlos? So, but we're at number 15. The last 2 picks of this episode, we are at number 15, and the Indianapolis Colts have their pick. What a roller coaster of a season for the Indianapolis Colts. Do you remember the whole Coach, I know it's 3rd down, but Coach, I need a break. Give me a break,
Coach. Give the guy a break.
I know he was tired. I get it. Anthony Richardson, what are we doing, man? But the Indianapolis Colts had a lot of other things to worry about. Their defense was not that great either, which is why I went ahead and I took the leader for rookies and sacks, because that was one of the Colts' biggest weaknesses, is getting after the quarterback this year. So I took Mr. Braden Fisk from FSU here at number 15 to help the Colts defensive line and to help get after those quarterbacks there in the AFC.
It's a bold pick. I actually I stayed on the defensive side of the ball, where this guy probably should have went from the beginning, and Cooper DeJean is my guy here. Plays corner, safety, tackles, can guard the tight ends. I think it would have been a great fit for them, and I don't mind their pick that they had going into this year, but I think Cooper DeJean would have been a great fit for them.
See, Carlos, that's why I'm always one step ahead of you, man. I knew you were going to take my guy off of the board, so I had to pick him at number 14 with the Saints. That's why I took him.
So you wanted him to shut down Mike Evans. I get it.
Not that I wanted him to, but you got to remember, I'm not a Bucs fan. I'm the GM of the Saints at number 14, and yes, I do want to shut down Mike Evans at that point.
He does.
On behalf of all Indianapolis Colts fans, speaking of being GMs, your GM needs to send Anthony Richardson to the homeless shelter because of his lack of leadership and manhood, because you don't tap out as a quarterback. You just don't do that. Now repeat it to the end of time. He sucks. You stick with defense with this pick, and you take Jared Verse, and you wreak havoc off the edge.
Jared Verse is still on your board. That's wild.
Yes.
That's wild. I love it, though. Dude, Jared Verse in Indianapolis, that would have been... Maybe they would have had a better year.
A better year in Pat McAfee's time would be Dwight Freeney.
Would have been it. It would, man. That's a good comparison, too.
It is. Very much so.
Or Mathis. Mathis off the edge.
Yeah. Indianapolis defense, they had some serious studs on that defense in the early 2000s with the Tony Dungy age. Man, that guy knew how to build a defense. Tony Dungy knew how to build a defense. I like Jared Verse there. Hey, I got his teammate, Braden Fisk. Look at that. Now they're not teammates anymore. Sorry, Rams fans. Let's move on to the last pick of this episode, which is the Seattle Seahawks, which honestly, this was a tough pick for me. I didn't know where to go. I really didn't. So, Scooter, who do you have for the Seattle Seahawks? They took Brian Murphy last year. Do you remember the hype with Brian Murphy last year coming out of last year's draft class?
Byron Murphy.
Listen, I just got done telling you that I'm almost positive my high school just gave me my GPA to get me out of there, or my high school diploma to get me out of there.
You think here we go for the 6th pick. Yeah, okay.
It's Brian Murphy. It's Dr. Brian Murphy.
And that's how we got canceled. All right, so moving on to the 16th pick of the 2024 redraft, I got Braden Fisk going to the interior instead of Byron Murphy. He was absolutely beast for the Rams, man.
Yeah.
Fisk is like Aaron Darnold reincarnate. And I don't know how else to put it. They're like, we lost Aaron Darnold. What do we do? GM's like, hold my beer, Braden Fisk. Yeah. And then if you just look at the West, that's exactly what they needed. They needed an interior. Byron Murphy couldn't do a darn thing, man. And Braden Fisk, as a replacement to that pick, I think is better for the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, I went with a guy in the trenches as well, but I went on the other side of the ball, going with the non-sexy pick here, Zach Frazier at center, who Pittsburgh got a steal from. He played great. It would have helped their boost that run, kept quarterback upright with God, why is his name?
Geno Smith.
Yeah, that's all right, because he's irrelevant. So Geno Smith would have helped him out. Yeah, I mean, I think that would have been Byron Murphy did not have a good year at all.
No. And Carlos, we are twins here again. I went with the interior Zach Frazier again, also here, because Geno Smith got sacked 50 times last year. The guy needs to be held upright. Now, yeah, 21 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Not great ratios there. Their run game, not the greatest either, but, Kenneth Walker missed 5 games. When he was out there, he averaged almost 4 yards a carry, so you can't really complain too much about that. But I think a little bit of extra weight there in the middle of that offensive line could definitely help them and give them a little bit of a better season. Defense definitely took a big turn outside of Byron Murphy not producing. Their defense did take a big turn in the positive direction, though. So shout out to them and what they're building over there in Seattle. But they definitely need to focus on interior alignment, and that is why I got Zach Frazier, because Zach Frazier is the perfect fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because blue collar, just, old school kind of guy. So I love Zach Frazier in Pittsburgh. But with this, I had to take him with Seattle to go ahead and help them out with that interior offensive line. So, but let us know if we had your team on this list this episode. We're going to be going 17 through 32 next week, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But let us know who you would pick for your favorite team down there in the comment section. We would love to hear from you guys. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you liked what you saw, because we're going to continue to bring you more content through the NFL offseason. And be sure to follow us on all of our socials. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and we are on X, and then obviously here on YouTube. So share with your family and friends, and until next week,
Beard Zone.